Welcome in. I'm Tyler Noe. He's Lance Barton. This is Always Talking Ball. If you're not doing so already, make sure to follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're tuning in on. Give us a like, give us a rating, and please share the show. Lance, let's just dive right into some ATB big game breakdowns brought to you by Home Field Apparel. Gear up with the best vintage designs from Home Field Apparel. Rep your school in style and save 15% off your entire purchase with promo code ATB15. Don't miss out. Shop now at homefieldapparel.com or Home Field Apparel app. Use ATB15 at 15% off for checkout. I started thinking out that this was a down week, but here on ATB, man, we can put lipstick on any week and make it look good. In this case, it's sneaky good. There's just a plethora of bets that we both absolutely love, but we'll get to that later. Let's just start off in Madison. Big noon kickoff. Fox, Alabama at Wisconsin. This is the first time Bama is going into Big Ten country since they played Penn State in 2011.
Been a while, man. It's been a while since they've taken a trip up north. And what a great venue that's going to be, man. At Madison, jump around. I know a lot of Alabama fans are excited to go to that venue. Again, because it's big noon. I wish that game were later. Yeah, I think that, let me ask you honest question here. As far as the matchup on the field is concerned in this game, do you think that it is a kind of what we were talking about with after the game with Texas and Michigan, that the difference in speed, athleticism, size, everything across the board? Do you think that's what we're looking at here with Bama and Wisconsin, that this is just a lot of, again, speed, athleticism, bigger, stronger, faster, all of that than Wisconsin?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're looking at. And, we talked a lot about Wisconsin, 10, 12 years ago, and they, always compare their offensive line and the size of their offensive line to like the Packers. I mean, they had some big dudes on the offensive line back when Russell Wilson was there and Monty Ball was running the rock and, Melvin Gordon and those guys. They don't have those guys anymore. And that's the problem. And I was talking to you yesterday. You were saying that this is one of the fastest Alabama teams that you've ever seen.
It is. The skill position players overall on offense, it's the most speed that I've seen just across the board, not just at the skill position level. It's defensive line, pass rushers, linebackers, DBs, receivers, tailbacks, quarterback. It's across the board. And I think that is a major, major difference in this game. I think that for Alabama to have the most success, when you go on the road, you want to be able to run the football, and you need to take the crowd out of it by running the football. And I think that's what Alabama's going to do in this game. I think they're going to take Jam Miller and Justice Haynes and whatever offensive line shows up. I would imagine that Elijah Pritchett will be playing right tackle, and not Welcome Formbly, who was the one that had a really tough go at it against South Florida. But it's possible that Formbly still could be playing right tackle and Pritchett could be at left tackle because it's uncertain if Caden Proctor is going to play or not. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like he's going to play. But still, the South Florida defensive line has a lot more speed and athleticism than this Wisconsin defensive line. If there's probably Wisconsin's DBs and overall pass defense is pretty solid. But their problem is depth, athleticism, all of that on the defensive front. And I think there's going to be a lot of rush yards to be had in this game by Alabama. If they start running the football really well, that's going to open up some explosive plays in the passing game. We've seen Alabama the last few years. They've been pretty much a shot play offense, feast or famine. Milroe takes a 10-yard sack, maybe fumbles a snap. We get a couple holding penalties on the offensive line, and next thing you know, Bama's 60 yards down the field, shot play to Ron Williams, touchdown. Or Jam Miller goes off tackle and breaks a tackle and goes 70 yards for a touchdown. Not a lot of just straight drives, 10-play, 11-play drives down the field. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that still in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of explosive plays to be had for Alabama. But on the flip side, Wisconsin, man, so far, again, maybe Tyler Van Dyke and this offense and Phil Longo's. I mean, Phil Longo's a great offensive coordinator, but maybe they figure it out in this game and have the game, the best game they've had so far in the Phil Longo spread offense, air raid type offense that at Wisconsin. It's just strange, man, seeing Whiskey trying to run this style of offense, and so far, man, it's not worked. It's not been a good experiment. Last year it wasn't. So far this year, through 2 ball games, offense has struggled a little bit against significantly weaker competition. And I mean, they struggled with South Dakota, and I think it was a pretty close game there in the second half, and they stretched it out there kind of late. But so far, it's just been kind of meh. So far of an offensive performance. Ches Malusi at tailback, like you said, he's not as good as a lot of those tailbacks that we've seen at Wisconsin. Really good coaching staff there in Madison. I just don't think they've got the overall talent and the horses to run this race. Now, how Whiskey stays in this game and keeps this one close and puts pressure on Alabama is if Alabama does what they've done the past 2 weeks and they've got double-digit penalties, getting touchdowns called back because of holding penalties or, illegal offensive motion, whatever. Just stupid penalties, fumbling the football, turnovers. If they do those things on the road, sure, Wisconsin can stay in the game. But I just think that the overall speed and athleticism and just the difference in athlete across the board on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and just I don't know how Whiskey's going to be able to keep up 4 quarters with Alabama in this game. And I'll just go ahead and say we'll just start off with a bang, bro. I got Alabama minus 15.5 as a best bet in this game. It's my first time backing them this year. And I just think this is a, 34-10, 38-13 type of ball game. And I think the Tide gets it done in Madison and covers.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of for Wisconsin is that, I mean, they had to have played South Dakota and Western Michigan very vanilla.
Yep.
I mean, Luke Fickell knows he can get past those teams with ease, or he should be able to. And they've got Alabama sitting there in week 3. He needs to make a statement. But man, like that 1-2 punch of Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, I mean, it's 1A and 1B there as far as running backs goes. So that's a beautiful thing to have. And they're going to, Pritchett gets back out there at right tackle. They're going to be able to run the ball a lot better than they did those first 3 quarters against USF. And you saw what they did in the fourth quarter, in the second half of the fourth quarter, busting some of those big plays. Wisconsin, I mean, Ches Malusi, they only averaged 4.2 yards per carry against South Dakota and Western Michigan. So that's concerning against a front 7 for Alabama that's really good. I mean, really good set of linebackers. They're going to be able to get to the ball. I mean, linebackers on Alabama are probably faster than freaking Wisconsin's wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Ryan Williams on the outside for Jalen Milroe. Ryan Williams is already wide receiver 1 at Alabama. In my mind. I mean,
he comes in and just makes big plays.
Yeah.
It's strange because I still don't really know. We really don't know who wide receiver 1 actually is yet, but it seems like that anytime a big play needs to be made, it's been Ryan Williams, the freshman so far through 2 weeks. And another thing, like for Wisconsin to have success in this game, going into the year, the biggest question mark for Alabama was their young secondary and inexperienced secondary. They played really well against Western Kentucky, and I'm just not sure how Western Kentucky could exploit it. But South Florida had some guys running open through that secondary, honestly, the majority of the game. And they just
Byron Brown just couldn't hit him.
Yeah, he just couldn't hit him.
Can you think Tyler Van Dyke can?
I mean, again, it depends on which TVD shows up, man. If the TVD that showed up against Texas A&M last year down there in South Beach, if that TVD shows up, sure, it could get interesting. But we just haven't seen that yet. He's just so inconsistent. We'll know early with him if he's all of a sudden hitting Will Pauling on some deep balls, and there's some, and you all of a sudden see Whiskey just looking like a completely different offense, you're going to know quick that, okay, yes, Badgers were holding everything close to the vest for the first 2 weeks, and they're unleashing it all here today, which I would imagine that's what they're going to do. They're going to try to do that. Can they block Alabama's defensive front? and the speed rushers at Alabama. I don't think they can. So we'll see.
Yeah. On the Wisconsin side, man, if Tyler Van Dyke can do it, only once in the past 19 seasons has Wisconsin been a home dog of at least 14 points, and that was last year when they welcomed in the Buckeyes. Buckeyes only won 24-10, so Wisconsin covered in that game. So, you know, some people out there may lean Wisconsin. Lance does not lean Wisconsin, and you know what? We're going to start off with a double bang. I'm taking Alabama minus 15.5. I think it's up to 16 now. Already bet it a couple days ago. It is my biggest play in a very long time.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well, if they're not covering, I can't wait for the text messages cussing Bama to me.
We know that's
coming.
Sure.
Hey, don't worry, I'll be cussing them with you. Good stuff, man. I'm fired up that we line up together on this one.
Dude, how fired up are we for a little Friday Night Lights in the Little Apple? Arizona at Kansas State on Fox, Friday night, 8 p.m. It's a Big 12 matchup, but it counts as a non-conference game because of a pre-scheduled meeting before all the alignment and everything. For Arizona, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the running back, he's kind of questionable right now. I think he might play, but Quayle Conley has been really solid as a backup.
Yep.
On the Kansas State side, man, what an attack with DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson really hasn't had to run that much, but I mean, they put up 215 against Tulane last week. That doesn't bode well for an Arizona squad that gave up 210 to New Mexico in week 1. But man, these are some high-flying offenses, and I don't know how much the defenses are going to be able to slow them down. For everything that Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter get talked about in Colorado and all that, I think Noah Fafita and Tet McMillan are a better duo, better 1-2 punch. And guess what? Who would have ever thought we would have said this in our lifetime? Arizona currently has the nation's longest active winning streak at 9 games.
They do. And again, man, what a matchup we get on a Friday night. Like the Thursday and Friday matchups that we get this week are fantastic. And by the way, awesome that these two teams, they could have easily, in the Big 12, could have made them do it, or these two teams could have easily decided, I mean, let's just go ahead and cancel this game and we'll go play, nobody Tech and whoever State this week and win 70-7. No, they said let's lock it up, let's lock those gates, strap up those chin straps, and let's get it in the Little Apple. And I'm fired up, man. I'm definitely going to be watching this one. You should as well. This is going to be a fantastic football game. And as far as the matchup on the field, what's interesting is going into this year, you would have thought that a strength of Kansas State's defense was going to be their pass defense. That was supposed to be a strength. Then they go down to the Big Easy last week to Tulane and get lit all the way up by the Green Wave last week. Tulane outplayed Kansas State. They outplayed them in every phase of the game except to score. Kansas State figured out a way to win that game at the end. And things got weird there really quick. Weather was strange. John Summerall is a heck of a coach for Tulane. And I don't know if it was – here's what I don't know yet. Well, we don't know yet. Is that what Kansas State is? Are they piss poor against the pass? Or was that a –
We're going to find out.
Exactly. We are with Tet McMillan and Noah Fafita. You're right, with that duo. But what we don't know is like, I'm wondering if it was more K-State has no film really on that new quarterback for Tulane.
Yeah.
It's a brand new coaching staff, brand new offensive scheme, whatever there in Tulane. So you're kind of going in blindfolded, and then all of a sudden there's receivers running all over the place, and that freshman QB for Tulane is slinging it. And I told you I caught a decent amount of that game, and it was ugly for K-State. Every time I looked up, there was a Tulane Green Wave and those beautiful unis just running butt naked through the secondary.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's the case. It's going to be interesting. But also the flip side of that, what K-State does best on offense is run the rock. Arizona's biggest weakness on their entire team is stopping the run. And so far, that's been the case. Against two nobodies, against New Mex and like Northern Arizona or something that they played last week.
Northern Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, they're giving up like, I don't know, we're close to 150 yards per game on the ground. And decent amount of yards per carry. This Kansas State rushing attack, you already said it with DJ Giddens and that crew, is a really good rushing attack. And here's what's scary. Avery Johnson is as legit as a dual threat as it gets as far as with his legs. They haven't unleashed him yet with his legs. I would imagine Friday night we're going to see him run a lot more. So if it's Kansas State, you would think that they're trying to play keep away. Run the clock, keep the ball out of Noah Fafita and Tet McMillan's hands. But I think you're right, man. I think we're going to have a shootout in the Little Apple on Friday night because I think that these offenses and some of the talent on both offensive sides of the ball far outweighs the talent on both defensive sides. I don't have a best bet yet in this game. I think Kansas State wins this game. But I don't have a best bet yet. I'm considering Kansas State here. Going to look a little more into it. Follow us on all of our socials. We give out our bets on Twitter and Instagram and all that. And if you just check it out, especially on X, we throw them out on X on game days. They could make it this week. But it's just tough right now, man, because I can't get out of my head watching those Tulane receivers and that Tulane pass game against K-State. I know what Fafita and McMillan are bringing to the table in this game. So
very interesting with Arizona. I mean, they against New Mexico, right? I mean, 61 points. McMillan has over 300 yards receiving, 10 catches or whatever like that. And then when they played Northern Arizona, he spends a lot of time on the sideline. I don't know if it's Northern Arizona, so they're just, again, being really vanilla. They know they got Kansas State on deck on Friday. Yep. Don't want to get any injuries. He's got like 12 yards on 2 catches. They win ugly, 22-10, but I try not to doubt Chris Kleiman.
Same.
He's one of those coaches, and he's 17-8 against the spread as a home favorite.
Yeah.
And so, you're leaning towards Kansas State. That's one of the things you want to look at. Me, however, I like to go against the grain. And
there you go.
I'm going to take Arizona +7 in this. I'm struggling to find out and find a reason why the number 20 team in the country is a touchdown dog to the number 14 team in the country, who we just saw play Tulane. I know Tulane's tough, and going down there is tough. Just ask Ole Miss. But they didn't look good, like you said, in the secondary, and they're going up against a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the country, top 10 quarterback at least in the country, and one of the best wide receivers in the country.
Yep.
And they got other wide receivers than McMillan because Kleiman's going to want to double him, and they're going to hit other guys. They're going to get running backs out of the backfield. They're going to spread them out. Can they stop Kansas State when they need to? And can Kansas State stop Arizona when they need to? I mean, that's it. Like, if you like the over in this game, I think it's maybe 61, 62.
Don't blame me if you do.
That's not a bad play either.
Yeah, don't blame me if you do. I agree. I thought this line would be less than what it was. This is one of those that my dad, growing up, he handicaps games and stuff. This is one of those I'd be like, man, why is so-and-so favored that much? And he'd say, odds makers are trying to tell you something. They're favored that much for a reason. But, hey, don't blame you at all, though. If you, again, it depends on how you handicap this. If you're a big fan of Fafita, McMillan, and this passing game, and Brent Brennan and this Arizona team, yeah, you're definitely looking at it like, why in the world would I not take these 7 points in this spot? Me, on the other hand, why I'm thinking about it the way I'm thinking about it is because of what you just said with Chris Kleiman, backing them at home. I think for whatever reason, I think they've made a mistake in trying to turn Avery Johnson into some like pocket passer and not letting him just be who he is. Just let that dude, just turn him loose and let him be him. And add him to that already really good rushing attack of DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards. But let me ask you this, though. Are you taking Arizona because of the just gorgeous unis and helmets that they're going to be rocking, and you just think that there's no way that they're not going to cover 7 points while rocking those new helmets?
Are they rocking those red ones with the white script?
They are, man.
Man,
they're breaking those out Friday night for the world to see on some Friday Night Lights in a Little Apple. You're going to have the purple cats on the other side with those sick script cat. That's going to be great to watch, man. I can't wait to watch it Friday night. It's going to be a good one, man.
It's going to be fun. College Game Day elected to go to Columbia, South Carolina for the first time in a decade. this week. LSU in town is 7-point favorites over the Gamecocks to noon on ABC. It's a noon game. That's a real bummer, man. I know people out there are already taking LSU on their bets. If this game was at night, I don't think the spread would be 7-1, and I think a lot of people might be backing off. LSU going into Williams-Brice at night, but nonetheless, it's a noon kickoff. South Carolina has lost 7 straight games to LSU, and they have not beaten them in Columbia since 1930. 1930. Big matchups in this game. LSU offensive line versus that South Carolina pass rush.
That's it.
That's edge LSU in my mind. We can break that down here in a second. But LSU secondary is very suspect, right? We saw what Miller Moss did to him. Nichols did a little bit of damage last week. They just have been suspect since last year. But we haven't seen much from Lenora Sellers that says he's going to be able to be the guy to expose it.
Yeah, I mean, I think South Carolina's got a very good athletic backfield with Rocket Sanders and Lenora Sellers, but I just don't know that South Carolina can truly exploit the weaknesses of this LSU team. And the biggest weakness is that secondary. And I don't know, man. So far, I haven't seen anything that tells me that they can. In this game, you've already hit the nail on the head. The biggest matchup in this game, without a doubt, for South Carolina to win this game, they've got to win the line of scrimmage with their defensive line against LSU's offensive line. And I just don't think they can. I have a lot of respect for the South Carolina D-line, what they've done in the first 2 weeks. And, guys, if you haven't yet, hop on X and hop on YouTube, whatever, and just type in Dylan Stewart, the 5-star true freshman who was one of the top edge rushers in the entire country. One of my favorite sayings, I say it almost every episode now, it seems like. I'm going to say it again. Not all 5 stars are created equal. And if you want to see that firsthand, check out this cat, Dylan Stewart, on the edge. Pro Football Focus and some other folks are saying he, so far, through only 2 weeks of the season, has been the best edge rusher in the country. And as a true freshman, he was whipping Kentucky's ass up front over and over and over again. Now, I know people are going to look at stat. People are going to be box score bears and go, well, I didn't have more sacks and more whatever. Dude, they were triple teaming this dude. And we're talking about a true freshman. There's film out there and there's all over Twitter of them sending triple teams, and he's still just whipping them. And then against, I think it was, they played ODU week 1, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he had multiple tackles for a loss, couple sacks. I think he had 2 forced fumbles in his first ever college game.
He might have single-handedly won them that game.
Yeah. So, but hey, what do you need to neutralize that? You've got 2 first-round offensive tackles for LSU. So, I mean, look, man, we're fans here too. You would love to sit here and pull for the little old underdog in South Carolina at Williams-Brice. It's one of the most, I mean, this is just a total off the top of my head here, but I would say South Carolina and Nebraska are the 2 stadiums that I don't think that get talked about enough on a national level as far as the atmospheres are just bonkers. And it's because I guess that they just haven't been as legit as some of the top-tier teams. But still, that place is going to be insane. But
it's going to be rainy.
It is, which is, I told you earlier this week, I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to be on LSU because I do think that LSU can neutralize what South Carolina wants to do best. But windy and rainy with a team that can't run the football like LSU, with a great passing offense, with a really good quarterback like Nussmeier, who's played really well and those receivers, if it's windy as can be, rain isn't to me, that if it's windy like it's supposed to be, now that could be a problem for Nussmeier in that offense. So again, I'm just telling you right now, if Saturday rolls around and all of a sudden the weather's clearing up a little bit, I'm gonna be on LSU. I am. But as we sit here today or tonight as we're recording this, I can't sit here and when I'm looking at it's a possibility of 20-something mile per hour winds and rain and lay a touchdown on the road in Williams-Brice with that at the moment. But fun game, man. I'm with you. I wish this game was at night. Not because I'm pulling for a team or anything like that. I just wish the rest of the country I think it's a great opportunity for like Nebraska last week for fans to get to see that place on full display. It would be a great opportunity for a night game with Herbie and them there to, just like it was Tennessee a few years ago when they went to South Carolina. I mean, that place is insane, man. It's fantastic atmosphere. Sandstorms as good as it gets early in the game. So yeah, I think it's going to be again another interesting game, man. Especially if the weather is going to be really bad. I think that neutralizes LSU's offense.
How bad does Shane Beamer need this game?
I mean, I don't know about how bad. As far like I've seen some people saying like he may lose his job or something if he. They would have to be catastrophically bad this year, I think, for them to fire him, because I think he is very well liked there. I do think that people that are actually in charge there understand what a tough job that is. Last year, if I'm not, again, I could be wrong, I don't have it right in front of me, but I think last year was the first year they didn't make a bowl game since he's been there. But you never know, man. South Carolina's fan base, unfortunately, thinks that every year should be like the Spurrier years. And
11-2.
Right. They think that everything should be like when Tennessee was down, Georgia was down, Florida was down, all those teams were down. Well, now Tennessee with Josh Heupel's a freaking wagon. Georgia's Georgia. Mizzou is really good. And there's no more divisions. So I don't think he necessarily has to have this game. But hey, if he wins this game, I do think it no doubt buys him more time without question.
Yeah. On the other side, in Baton Rouge, what happens if Brian Kelly loses this game?
Dude, let me promise you something. If they lose this game, that fan base and those crazy-ass Cajuns down there in Baton Rouge and Louisiana, that's like their own country, by the way. I've been there many times. That's as fun as it gets, by the way, down there in Cajun country. God, what a fun time that is. But, yeah, dude, they'll be all over him. And not only them, the Paul Feinbaums of the world and people like that, the hot takes will be flying if they go to South Carolina and lose to Lenora Sellers and Shane Beamer and that bunch. No question.
All right, next game. If your main TV, I know all you guys out there have 3 or 4 TVs. If your main TV is not tuned in to NBC at 7:30 on Saturday night for some two blue blood college basketball programs going at it on the gridiron, what are you even doing? Indiana at UCLA, prime time. IU traveling nearly 1,800 miles for this one. Sig says yesterday, we could play the Rose Bowl, we could play in a parking lot. It doesn't matter.
I love that guy.
We're coming to play some football. And guess what? IU's favored in this one by 3 points on the road against UCLA.
Please tell me you have a nugget somewhere that says when the last time they were favored on the road. Do you have anything like that? If you don't, it's okay. I'm putting you on the fly.
I did read it. I didn't write it down, but it was probably, I think it was 2021 when they played at Western Kentucky. Okay, so it's a G5 school. But 2020, when they had their good season, they were favored on the road at Michigan State late in the season. So it's been a while. It's been a while since they've been a road favorite. But, man, they've got basically JMU 2.0 down in Bloomington. And you got Tyson Lawton, you got Justice Ellison. They're both senior running backs. They're both transfers. They're running the rock well. Again, IU hasn't been tested. They played FIU. They played Western Illinois, who's lost 27 games in a row as an FCS school. They haven't won in 2.5 years. So, but, man, Curtis Rourke is playing really, really well. He's completed 73% of his passes.
Yeah, dude, he's 30 for 41 on the year. And Cignetti's quarterbacks dating back to even his days at Elon, before James Madison. His quarterbacks have always been extremely efficient. And the former MAC Player of the Year, Curtis Rourke from Ohio, is doing the same thing. Yeah.
Dude, he's got some studs to throw to. Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr. I mean, they're some of the PFF's highest graded wide receivers out there.
Dude, this is IU football we're talking about.
We're talking about IU. This is probably the first time in ATB history that we're breaking down an Indiana football game.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm going to mention one thing here. You mentioned the tailbacks there. So Elijah Green transferred in from North. They got a 3-headed monster at tailback.
Yep.
I feel funny even saying that. A 3-headed monster at tailback at IU right now. Elijah Green transferred in from North Carolina. Tyson, by the way, the way he spells his name, awesome. It's
Tyson.
Ty, and then it's another word, Son, S-O-N,
Yep.
Lawton. Got to be good if you have a name like that. Like, it's impossible not to be good. Transferred in from mighty Stony Brook. And then Justice Ellison transferred in from Wake. Those three cats have run they've had 87 carries at 6.5 yards per carry and 10 rushing tutties through 2 games. Now, I know they're playing basically high school teams, their first 2 games. That don't matter. This is Indiana we're talking about. They haven't been doing that against anybody. So, again, there's a reason that they're favored on the road. Odds makers think enough of Cignetti and this Indiana roster to favor them on the road. It also tells us what right now, the state of UCLA football is, where they're at right now. Like, they're a dog in the Rose Bowl to Indiana.
Well, the problem is we've only seen them once, and they did not look great against the Hawaii team. They were favored by nearly 2 touchdowns over. They needed a late field goal to win that game. I mean, they were down 10-0. They won the game 16-13. Man, I mean, they just didn't look great. Ethan Garbers, you don't know how he's going to play.
Dude, he's been playing forever.
Yeah. I mean,
he's been there forever.
J. Michael Sturdivant is one of their wide receivers. He's questionable. He might miss the game. Rico Flores is going to have to step up.
I was about to say, man, your old boy from the Irish, Rico Flores, is there. Yeah, he's there.
I mean, they did have a bye week this past week, because they went to Hawaii that first week. But, I don't know how much you're going to be able to tell, see from IU on the film to prep. And I don't know if the rest advantage 1 week into the season is really that much.
No, I mean, I think it's interesting that it's still wild to me that Eric Bieniemy is the offensive coordinator right now at UCLA. But dude, again, the college football fan in me, I'll have this game on one of the TVs because I am interested to see what Indiana, because they've got some momentum in recruiting right now. We admit we are Kirk Cignetti fans and think that guy is a hell of a football coach. His sound bites are fantastic. But, hey, got to go win them. Got to go win games like this. You're favored.
That's all he does.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Like, we talked about it. Like, I don't have it in front of me, but his record overall was Kalen.
He's never had a losing season.
Right. His record overall was Kalen DeBoer-esque.
Yeah.
But this will be interesting. I mean, I would love to sit here and say I've got a best bet on IU, but I can't lie. It's hard for me to want to lay points on the road. Like, I'm not going to take my hard-earned money and lay points on the road with IU when we don't really know yet what they are because they've played 2 bad high school football teams. And UCLA, all we've done is seen them one time on the field, go down to the islands and pull one out, like you said, against Hawaii. So, but yeah, interesting game, man. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close game. Probably a little lower scoring. But if IU goes on the road and wins that one, I don't think UCLA is very good this year, but it still shows you that Indiana is trending upward as a program already.
Same time, 7:30 on Fox. UCF is going to take on TCU
Shootout
down at Amon G. Carter Stadium. And this line has flipped, I think, 4.5 points from our episode that came out Monday. We did a little guess the spread. I think UCF was +1.5 or +2. And now they are 2.5 point favorites. It's trending in their direction. There's no secret. UCF wants to run the ball. RJ Harvey, Penny Boone. We talked about those guys so much in the offseason.
Number 1 in the country through 2 games.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you guys that this rushing offense was not going to be stopped. And they're not going to be. They will not be stopped this year from running the football. They're number 1 in the country.
We talked about those two ad nauseum, and then I think we glossed over Miles Montgomery, Cincinnati transfer. He's just running the rock too, and then they got KJ.
By the way, how has that even happened that they get the guy that would be starting right now as the running back at Cincinnati? They get Penny Boone, who was the best offensive player in the MAC from Toledo, who went to Louisville, and he decided to leave Louisville to go to UCF so he could back up RJ Harvey. I mean, that 3-headed monster with KJ, what's wild is, again, they've played 2 teams that aren't very good. But they've done exactly what you're supposed to do with 2 teams that aren't very good. They haven't even come close to unleashing KJ yet in the run game or overall in the pass game in general.
Dude, if they got so many running backs, they may as well. Malzahn may think about breaking out the wing T offense and putting 3 running backs on the field at the same time.
Dude, this is perfect for him, by the way, man. This is the exact type of style of play he wants to do, man. If he
they're
could,
always going to have fresh bodies at the tailback.
Yep.
KJ, I mean, the big thing for KJ is can he prevent the mistakes? And we saw in that first game on, I think it was a Thursday night. I can't remember who they were playing, some no-name team, but he did have a couple of plays where you're like, ooh, is the old KJ Jefferson back?
Yeah. Well, speaking of old KJ Jefferson, when KJ Jefferson was at his best 2 years ago and 3 years ago at Arkansas, he was basically carrying an Arkansas offense, and they were very exciting, and he was really good in the SEC at Arkansas. Not last year under Dan Enos, who was unemployed. His offensive coordinator was Kendall Browse. And Kendall Browse is the offensive coordinator now at TCU. What does that have to do with anything in this game other than it's just a cool little nugget to talk about? Nothing. But it's just neat that Kendall Browse, OC, and there's a lot of familiarity with these staffs overall in general. TCU, the TCU staff. Rhett Lashley, Rhett Lashley is a Gus Malzahn disciple, and he's also been an offensive coordinator under, I'm drawing a blank, TCU head coach.
Sonny Dykes.
He coached under Sonny Dykes at SMU, was the offensive coordinator under Sonny Dykes at SMU. And so, Dykes is obviously familiar with what the type of, offensive scheme that Malzahn wants to run. There's some familiarity here with coaches and schemes and stuff overall. A little nugget here, just looking at different things in this game. We talked about UCF's got the number 1 rush offense in the country at 419 yards in 2 games at 7.6 yards per carry. R.J. Harvey, Penny Boone, and Miles Montgomery, who we just talked about, had 64 carries for 531 yards at 8.3 yards per carry and 10 touchdowns in 2 games. Bonkers. And an interesting nugget here on TCU. Through 2 games, 13 penalties for 165 yards, which is 119th in the country. So they need to clean up those penalties, because if they don't, and they're giving up a lot of rush yards to UCF, that one could get interesting. But I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, man. I think it's going to be a really fun. This will be also on one of the TVs at night. I'll be watching this one because I think that the winner of this game could make a little noise here in the Big 12 going on down the stretch. If UCF can go on the road and beat TCU, we both talked about them as a dark horse here in the Big 12 this year. If they go on the road and handle business here in Fort Worth this week, they're on the right track heading to in their second year in the Big 12 to make a little noise this year.
Yeah, we said a lot in the offseason that UCF is a sleeping giant. Yep. They're in Central Florida and in Orlando, and they got the recruiting and everything. Mm-hmm. And, now that we have just absolutely, been all over UCF in this breakdown, if that line gets to 3, I will be taking TCU plus 3.
Don't blame me.
And dude, Sonny Dykes is really good at home, and he's really good as a home dog. And I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Gus Malzahn at UCF on the road, not great. And especially as a road favorite at UCF, 3-7 against the spread. And that was the kind of thing that got him tripped up at Auburn. He thrives in an underdog role. If they're an underdog in this game, a road underdog, then it might be different. But there's just something about him being a favorite. It just doesn't play out well in his favor. So we'll see. 7:30 on Fox. Should be a good one.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one.
Weird start time for this next one, 12:45 Eastern on SEC Network. But a ranked matchup. The only ranked matchup of the week. Is that right?
Is Arizona ranked?
Oh yeah, I guess Friday night.
So only Saturday. The only ranked matchup on Saturday, and didn't have that on the bingo card. Nope. It would be
Boston College at Mizzou, and all of our friends, all Missouri friends that we have, are just praising us that we're actually talking about them finally on the podcast. A little bit like UCF, BC, man, they want to run. Kai Robichaux, Trayshawn Ward, Thomas Castellanos. They want to run the rock. That's what they did against Florida State.
Dude, Castellanos has been one of the most efficient. Like his numbers through 2 games are as efficient as far as completion percentage and not turning the ball over and stuff. He's been fantastic through 2 games for BC.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien seems to be pulling the right strings through the first 2 games there. I mean, they played Florida State, but they played Duquesne. And so, again, Mizzou, another team kind of like Indiana, haven't really played anybody. They played Murray State and they played Buffalo. Having a lot of single point, that's pretty impressive no matter who you play.
0 points allowed this year. Like you said, that's hard to do against anybody.
Yeah. But again, how good is their defense? And we're still asking that question, the same question we asked all offseason. How good is the defense going to be after they lost so many players from last year's team?
Yep.
And on offensive side of the ball, man, you talk about LB3, Luther Burden. He hasn't even been their leading receiver. It's been Theo Weiss.
Yeah, Theo Weiss went off last week.
Yeah, dude. So they've got weapons around. Can Boston College slow them down? I don't know. I mean, I think Mizzou's 16.5-point favorites, maybe 17 in this game. I know everyone watched that Boston College Florida State game. I watched it. I saw them beat Florida State by 15. We'll get to watch Florida State a little bit on Saturday at this time too, but you know, how good is BC? I'd love to see what that line would have been at the beginning of the season and see how it's moved. So this is kind of a stay away from me.
It is for me too, but I think this is going to be, I could be off, but I think this is another example of, dude, there is a lot of excitement overall around this Mizzou football program right now. Again, I live here in St. Louis. I feel it and see it and hear it all around here. They're excited they feel like they're ranked 6th in the AP poll, but they hear people still kind of doubting them a little bit. And they are excited to play a team that has a number next to them like Boston College.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to watch them as well against this Boston College team because, I mean, no matter what people think of Boston College or not, they're not some juggernaut or anything, but they're still a solid little football team. We're going to find out more about Mizzou this Saturday. And a Bill O'Brien coach team like that, they're going to be well prepared on the offensive side of the ball. But I'm going to chalk this up, and my thoughts are on this one is that I think this could be another example of overall the team speed and athleticism of this Mizzou team in comparisons to overall in Boston College, I think is a total mismatch. And I mean, Castellanos is a great athlete to the quarterback position, and the tailback positions for Boston College are solid. And I can't remember the name, but Boston College has one really good solid receiver as well. But overall, the 3-headed monster at receiver for Mizzou, the 2 tailbacks that Mizzou have, Marcus Carroll and Noel, are really good at tailback. And I'm going to throw in another one here. Brady Cook, through 2 weeks, has they've used him a lot more in the QB run game. He's always had wheels, but they're using him more right now in the QB run game. He actually rushed the ball really well overall against Buffalo last week. So I think Mizzou wins this game. I don't know if they cover or not. I have no pick in this game as far as against the spread is concerned. But I think Mizzou wants to try to make a statement this week, and I think they do take care of business and win this game. And we'll learn a little bit more about them.
Yep. Last game we're going to talk about. I mean, what in the world? I mean, how are we even going to break this one down? You got A&M at Florida, 2 1-1 teams who lost week 1 against Notre Dame and Miami, 3:30 ABC. Billy Napier, I mean, it feels like his last stand. And he's talking about Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway, and probably as we are recording this on Wednesday night, the new SEC injury report is kind of getting first released on Wednesday night. We'll kind of see what the health of Graham Mertz is a little bit. In my opinion, even if Mertz is healthy, Napier absolutely has to start DJ Lagway for a couple of reasons. He gives him the best chance. I think he gives him the best chance to win now, and then obviously provide excitement for the future. Like, hey, we've got a guy here who's a true freshman. He's slinging the rock. I know it was just Samford, but he threw for 456 yards. And again, if you're going to play two quarterbacks, I cannot stand it when coaches play two quarterbacks. Nobody can get in a rhythm. It's just if he starts Mertz, he might as well just deliver himself and sign his own pink slip. I mean, even if they win this game, like I just think that the excitement that Lagway brings to the fans, to the donors, to the boosters. I know you want to be loyal to the guy that transferred to you and he's been your quarterback for a couple years, but it's just that would be hard for me to get over if I was a Florida fan.
Yeah, dude, it seems like it doesn't matter what it is that it continues to be tough situations that Billy Napier finds himself in, and which is why
he's got to have the guts to make the tough call, though.
Right? No, I don't disagree, but what I actually disagree that I don't know that Lagway should be the starter. I get everything you just said makes total sense, and I'm not like disagreeing with your thoughts on what you said about Lagway. But, I mean, I think Mertz would have looked really good, too, against Samford. And when Lagway did play against Miami, he looked awful. But that, again, that's his first game as a really good Miami team. I get all that. But point being
he's taking first-team reps all week this week, it seems.
Yeah. Dude, trust me, I agree with you that Lagway is a legit athlete and obviously is the talent. I think if you polled, if we just took like a poll of 100 Florida fans, they would probably 98 of them or 99 of them would say play Lagway. So I get 100% all of that. But it's just amazing to me that 2 weeks into the season, Mertz gets hurt week 1. Lagway goes out and plays against the team that Mertz would have also looked really good against, and Lagway lights it up. And then he puts Billy Napier in a tough spot. Yeah. But I agree. He's got to make the tough decisions and needs to play whoever, whatever's going on in practice. We have no idea. Mertz is supposedly a team leader and all that stuff. So who knows what it does to a locker room. But what I will say as far as this matchup in this game, Texas A&M has not won a road game since October of 2021. I know that's
such a crazy stat.
It really is. That was a different regime. That was old Jimbo. But yeah, I will say it again. They have not won a road game since October of 2021. On the matchup between these two teams, Florida has it looks like so far, their rush defense was actually look, there was nothing that went well against Miami except really one thing. Kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Florida held up fine against the run. Damian Martinez in that group. If you take away 2 scrambles that break down the fire drill scrambles from Cam Ward, I think he had only a couple carries for 40-something yards or something. If you take that away, they didn't run for squat against Florida.
Yeah, I think Martinez had 65 yards or something.
Right, and he had, how many carries. It wasn't
16 carries, I think.
Right, yeah, it wasn't much. And I remember last year, Florida, when they played Tennessee at home, when they beat Tennessee in the Swamp, they held up really well against the run, and they had made Milton, who couldn't do it, try to beat them with his arm. That's obviously what they're going to have to do in this game, because we know that Colin Klein and Texas A&M, with a couple of those tailbacks, they're going to try to run the rock against Florida. And so I think that Florida holds up well against the run so far. A&M's weakness, it seems to be, is on their offensive line and pass blocking. Notre Dame was all over Connor Wegman game 1 there in College Station. You were at the game. They were breathing down his neck the whole freaking game.
Yep.
And Florida's offensive line, we've only seen them against one good team. Granted, Miami looked the part. Yeah, they look like booty against that Miami pass rush. And we know A&M can get after the quarterback with that defensive line. They've got a good pass rushing type D line with Nick Scorton, Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner. So, again, as far as Florida's weaknesses, I think A&M can exploit them. As far as A&M's weaknesses, I think that both teams actually can exploit a little bit each other's weaknesses. So you said it at the beginning of this. I have no idea as far as handicapping this game.
Yeah. I think it's
And
down to 3.5 right now. Texas A&M's favored by 3.5.
okay, all right. Well, another thing is too, like you talked about Notre Dame getting to Wegman. Florida doesn't really have. I can't even say his last name. You probably can say it. The guy that transferred to Ole Miss.
Uman Milan, yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
Which, by the way, his brother plays in Nebraska.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Black shirts. Kind of
yeah.
like us, the black shirts.
Black shirts. Look at us. Yeah, look at us. Well, Florida only had 2 tackles for a loss total against Miami. And it doesn't seem like they have anybody that can get after the quarterback as far as from a pass rushing standpoint. So I don't know that they can exploit that part of Texas A&M's weaknesses, which seems to be pass blocking. I'm not sure Florida can get after Wegman. I'm not giving up on Connor Wegman like I know the rest of the country has. He may be booty in the swamp this week, but we'll see. I have no idea what to say about this game. If you made me pick it one way or the other, I mean, I'll Texas A&M field goal. If you made me pick it, maybe they get their first road win since October of 21.
Yeah, they're going to need they got to have some wide receivers step up to help Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels. And
I agree.
Again, Cyrus Allen, we know his name now for A&M, but they got to have some guys step up and make some plays for Wegman. So let's move on. Let's sound the alarms. It's time to put some teams on upset alert. This segment is brought to you by SeatGeek. If you need tickets, SeatGeek has the best deals. For first-time users, use promo code AlwaysTalkingBall and get $20 off of your first purchase. Download the SeatGeek app and use AlwaysTalkingBall as your code to save on your next event. I've got like 6 or 7 teams that I'm putting on upset alert. I'm not going to put them all on upset alert
on this sleepy Saturday.
I'm not going to put them all on upset alert. I'm not going to go out on a limb like that, but I guarantee you a couple of these teams are going to lose these games. And I mean, again, I flirted with Arizona winning outright. I could see them easily winning that game in Kansas State. How about Colorado State at home against Dion and Shadur and those guys after Shadur is just absolutely trashing his O-line. I hope his O-line first play of the game just stands up. They don't block it. They just let him get killed. Hope they just let him get killed out. But I'm not going to go Colorado State quite yet because Torrey Horton might not be playing. That's a big loss for them. So a couple I'm looking into is Oregon State at home catching 16.5 against the Oregon Ducks, who have probably been the most underachieving team through the first couple of weeks.
Florida State, but they're I would say after that, yeah.
I mean, as far as like point spreads go and not covering by your projected point spreads, like they're up there, I think, in SP plus ratings. I mean, they were favored by a ton against Idaho, which granted, Idaho went into Laramie last week and they won against Wyoming. So, they're not a terrible team. Boise State, that game, we might look back on that game in November and be like, shoot, man, that was a great win for Oregon over Boise State against Ashton Genty and the boys. But Beavs are 16-3 against the spread at home since 2021. And I know a lot of that's with Jonathan Smith. This is a new team. They've just got absolutely ravaged by the portal. They had a shutout victory last week at San Diego State, okay? I know Oregon State's still in the Pac-12, Pac-2. They're considered, probably, I think they're probably considered a G5 team now at this point. I don't know. Nobody knows what Oregon State and Washington State are. I know that they're pissed, okay? They hate Oregon. I mean, if you thought the Civil War was bad before Oregon went to the Big Ten, think of how much those people at Oregon State want this game so badly. And we'll see. We'll see if they can get it done. I thought about Tulane against Oklahoma. Again, Tulane looked really good. Darian Mensah, they're starting to get some film on him, like you said.
Oklahoma's got problems, man, on that offensive line. I mean, we knew that going into the year, but it's even worse now because of injuries.
Yeah. We didn't talk about them at all on Monday, and we should have. We just kind of glossed over. They were 28-point favorites over Houston, and they won 16-12.
Yep.
That does not that screams, red flag right there. And then I thought a little bit about UNLV at Kansas. Barry Odom, bringing him in there to Kansas, fresh off of
UNLV
Kansas'
has looked
first
really
loss.
impressive through 2 weeks. A lot of Power 5 transfers, really good offensive coordinator, Barry
They
Odom.
went to Houston and
Yeah.
they won by 20.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they've now got a common opponent with Oklahoma, and they looked a heck of a lot better on the road than Oklahoma did at home.
They're going to score points
But
against Kansas. That's going to be a shootout.
yeah, but you know me, I'm gonna stick to my guns. I've never really hopped off the Beaver wagon. So I'm if I were to pick a team to have a really good shot at winning outright, I mean, Oregon's got to prove something to us. That we've given them a pass week 1 and a little bit of a pass week 2. Maybe they're still figuring things out. And I'm sure I'll pick Oregon State, and this will be one of those games where Oregon comes out and they win 52-10, right? So I think there's going to be some upsets. It's really hard to pick which ones. So those are 5 or 6 that I kind of eyeballed there.
Yeah, you mentioned one, and I mean, they're just a circus right now, man. And I'm not all over them like you are, but I'll just say I'm doing this one for you. I'm putting Colorado on upset alert, heading to Colorado State. We saw that game last year in Boulder. That game being in Colorado Springs this year. I know Torrey Horton may not be playing, but still, I just think Colorado, man, has a lot of problems right now, and some of it's off the field, some of it's on the field. I think this is, again, we saw how hard Colorado State played last year in that game. You're going to see that again in this one. I think Colorado State is going to hit Colorado in the mouth, and we'll see how the Buffs respond. And again, Colorado has the skill and Shedeur and all that to blow this game wide open. I know the stats out there when Colorado's a favorite of what they are, like straight up, and when they're an underdog, what they are as an underdog. But I think there's a chance that Colorado could lose this one straight up in Colorado Springs. And another one, again, I'll remind everybody every episode, this is teams that are getting points of more than 4 points that could win the game straight up. I thought about Rice over Houston, but that game is literally at 4. So it's got to be more than 4. So I hate to do it, man. I love their unis. They throw tortillas around. I think that's fantastic. I'm a fan of Guns Up and Texas Tech.
Yeah.
But dude, what the hell is going on with them through the first 2 weeks of college football?
Ever since everybody anointed them the comeback kids last year.
Yeah, dude, like
terrible.
I know McGuire is like all I hear about, and we talk about it too, like the great recruiting classes, the best 2 recruiting classes that Texas Tech's like ever had.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. So you're telling me they've got more talent than they normally ever have, and they're losing more games. It's not good. First week of the season against Abilene Christian, Texas Tech gave up a zillion yards and 51 points. They won 52-51. But yeah, alarming. Hey, it's first week.
Yeah.
Maybe they were overlooking that because they're heading to the Palouse the next week to Washington State. They head to the Palouse to Washington State. Now, Taj Brooks didn't play in this game, but still, they get ran all over. Washington State they're still running for more yards against Texas Tech. So they're playing North Texas this week. Chandler Morris, who was the starting quarterback at TCU going into last year, lost his job at TCU, transfers to North Texas. Eric Morris is the head coach at North Texas now. Eric Morris' alma mater, Texas Tech. He played at Texas Tech. He was the offensive coordinator under Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech. Coach Patrick Mahomes. He was the offensive coordinator for Patty Mahomes. He then became the head coach of Incarnate Word and turned Incarnate Word into that offensive machine that they were. And he coached a guy by the name of Cam Ward. Cam Ward transferred to Washington State. What does Eric Morris do? he becomes the offensive coordinator at Washington State. He was Cam Ward's offensive coordinator at Washington State last year. Parlayed that into the head coaching position at North Texas. And so Eric Morris in North Texas, through the first 2 weeks, have looked very impressive. If Texas Tech cannot figure out this defense, they're laying 9.5 points. If Taj Brooks is back, I think they could obviously run for a lot of yards because he's the real deal. But North Texas can score. And obviously Texas Tech's got problems on defense. So I'm putting Texas Tech on upset alert along with Colorado.
I like it, man. I mean, what has Colorado shown anybody to think they should be 7-point favorites on the road in Fort Collins? I don't know.
Nope.
And the North Texas game, I mean, a lot of G5 versus P4 matchups in week 3 here. We haven't even talked about Thursday night. I mean, Arizona State going on the road to Texas State.
Dude,
and
two of the biggest party schools in the country. If Texas State wins that game in San Marcos on Thursday night, you can bet that there will not be a bigger party in the country than San Marcos, Texas on Thursday night if they win that game against the Fun Devils.
Yeah, and they will be a heavy G5 favorite and Sun Belt favorite if they win that game.
Yep.
So those are that's us. That's it for upset alert. Time for the best bets of the week. I've got Alabama minus 15.5, Arizona plus 7. I'm going to start off with Memphis. I was able to get them plus 7.5. What in the world? How could you possibly trust DJU and Florida State right now at home? I mean, favored by, they're 6.5 right now. I would still take that. Mario Anderson may just run all over the Noles defense unless Mike Norvell has figured something out in these past 2 weeks. They got a bye week before that. Everyone thought this was going to be a big game. Started off at 5.5 this week. It's went all up to 7.5, kind of settled at 6.5. I was able to snag it at 7.5. But Norvell, after a loss, is 5-11 against the spread. With a rest advantage, he's 4-7 against the spread. And as a home favorite, he's 8-12 against the spread.
Whoa.
Right?
Okay. I would not have thought that with.
Yeah.
I got a lot of respect for Norvell. I would not have thought that with like all those things. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. And that was just his time at Florida State, too. So, now, in that same time, Ryan Silverfield has been the coach of Memphis. And this is not a trends play because as an away underdog, Ryan Silverfield is 2-8 against the spread. So this is – I'm giving you all angles here, okay? This is all plays here. I'm just saying teams that lose back-to-back games as 10-point favorites and they're favored in their next game, 5-11 against the spread, okay? Just 9-8 straight up, too, which is why I almost made Memphis my upset alert pick. They could go in there and they could win this game straight up. Mario Anderson, like I said, might run all over him. And if they finally figured out a way to kind of stop the run, they got Seth Hennigan still at quarterback. And he hasn't really shown much the first 2 weeks. They had a really nice win over Troy. I know Troy's down after Summerall left, but, 38-17 win over Troy. And they've kind of really been vanilla with Hennigan so far. So I'm taking a stab at Memphis here at Florida State. I think they're out to prove something.
Nice, man. Yeah, Memphis, going into the year, we talked about their schedule was what we thought could possibly, because they have to go on the road to Tulane. They have to go to UTSA. And there's a few other teams that are on the road that their schedule is tougher. But as far as talent and like a neutral field, line up best teams in the group of 5, Memphis is one of the best teams, no doubt, in the group of 5.
Yeah.
And most talented. So, yeah, man, that was going to be interesting. Like I said, my family, who big Memphis fans and Memphis grads, my father-in-law, brother-in-law, they're going to be fired up when they listen to this and hear you say that.
Yeah, your family should like that one. They're not going to like my next one, so don't worry.
Good stuff, man. Well, I am going to – I've already got Bama minus 15.5 at Wiz. That's my only one I've given out so far. I'm going to head up to the Pacific Northwest. And I'm going to head to Seattle, and I'm going to take Washington. I already played it. Washington minus 4. I believe you can. There's still some 4s out there, but it's starting to creep to 4.5. Again, same situation of the Oregon State-Oregon game that you talked about. Washington State, I'm sure, wants this so bad they can't stand it because Washington left them for dead going to the Big Ten. But this game is being played, I believe, on a neutral field. at the Seahawks Stadium, right? Lumen
Yep.
Field, whatever it's called.
Lumen Field, yep.
Yep. So it's not actually at Husky Stadium. Do what?
I said the Clink.
Clink.
CenturyLink Field.
There you go. There you go. So Washington State against Texas Tech. Texas Tech turned the ball over multiple times. Washington State, their quarterback that they've got, I mean, he's all right. But they want to run the football this year, which is different, obviously, than when they had Cam Ward. Washington, with old Steve Belichick, they, so far, I know they haven't really played anybody, but they've looked really good against the run. And a really good, fundamentally sound run defense. And Will Rogers in this offense, and Jonah Coleman, who transferred from Arizona to Washington. This offense has looked pretty solid. I think that the Huskies win this game against Wazoo and cover the 4. I think it's going to be a solid football game. But again, they could win this game 28-21, and it's a war, and that is still a cover. And that's all we're trying to do right now. We're struggling a little bit against the spread so far this year. We just need a cover, baby. That's all we need. So I'll take the Huskies -4 in this spot.
Bounce back week for us on Sleepy Saturday here. Yep. I've got one more pick to give out. Couple of them, before I get to that, a couple of them before I'm kind of looking at. I've already said, TCU +2.5, maybe +3. We'll see what that line does. Looking at Tulsa, it was at 20.5. It's kind of down to 19.5, 19 right now. I just think that's a sandwich spot for the Pokes, man. Just coming off a double overtime game against Arkansas, and then the next 2 weeks after this, they've got Utah and Kansas State.
Yep.
And it's at Tulsa too, and right there in Oklahoma. Probably going to be a ton of Cowboys fans, but the players at Tulsa are going to be fired up.
Tulsa getting a shot at one of the big boys on their home field. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And then kind of the other one I mentioned with the upset alert. I'm looking at Oregon State if it can get to 17. I like Tulane. I like IU, but just not enough, not quite there yet. So the last one I'm going to give out, I mentioned your family loved me for the Memphis pick. The other side of the family is not going to like this one. But again, like Colorado and like Florida State, what in the world has Virginia Tech done? Here we are again with Virginia Tech, a 2-touchdown favorite on the road. What did you say? What did you say when they were 2-touchdown favorites on the road against Vandy? You said they didn't deserve that, even against a high school team right now, right?
Yeah.
And did we learn nothing from that Vandy game?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if ODU has Diego Pavia, but you're right. Like right now, Virginia Tech has done nothing to earn being a 2-touchdown favorite on the road against anyone, and that includes Old Dominion. So,
dude, last two times they played at Old Dominion, they've lost the games outright.
Yeah, I mean that's another one. You got a smaller in-state. I have no idea. Look. As a Virginia Tech fan and my entire family from the New River Valley there in the Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Radford, Virginia area, they say this as well. I don't understand why Virginia Tech is playing on the road at Old Dominion. The reason they do it is because that area of Virginia is that Norfolk area. Great fertile recruiting ground for the state of Virginia. But when you go there and lose, that's not very fertile of a recruiting ground for you when you're going and losing to ODU. So, I don't think they should be favored by 2 touchdowns in this game. I don't have a play in it, but don't blame me.
Yeah. So, ODU, I got them at +14. It's actually up to +15, so I got a little bit of a raw number here. But I'm going to take the +14. Ricky Ronnie, solid head coach. Home dog, 7-4 ATS. Underdog in general, 19-11 against the spread. And like I said, man, Brent Pry, since he's been at Virginia Tech, 5-8 against the spread on the road, 3-8 against the spread in non-conference games. And I know 2 of those were, or at least one of those was against Old Dominion. So something about, he waits till he gets in the conference games to start, playing. And,
you know what you should be scared about? That Virginia Tech always has a clunker every year.
The fact they've already had that.
They already had
right?
their clunker. Yeah, they already had that clunker against Vandy.
I'm not scared.
Yeah,
I'm not scared.
Obviously,
Virginia Tech, they probably win the game. I mean, I think they could probably win the game by 10 or so. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's close in the fourth quarter once again.
Yeah.
I mean, Old Dominion took. We don't know how good South Carolina is, but they took South Carolina down to the wire, 23-19.
Yep.
So, Virginia Tech at Old Dominion +14. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but hey, odds makers know more than I do. There's a reason there's a lot of tall buildings in Vegas. So those are my bets right now. What else you got?
Good stuff, man. Well, hey, when you're struggling a little bit against the spread, sometimes, man, you gotta have fun. We want fireworks, baby. We want points. What's more fun than betting an over? Like, give me the overs. I got a total and I got an over. And this was as soon as I saw after we did the guess the spread segment, and I went and looked through different numbers. This was the second bet that I made of the week. It was Ole Miss and Wake over 63 in this game. I was looking at certain matchups, and I said, I wonder what totals, what lines will be. It was actually the line I was curious in with this Ole Miss game. It has now gone up to, like, there's some around 64 is where it's at now. And when this came out, I took it at Ole Miss Wake over 63. I think there's a chance that Ole Miss can get to 50 on their own. I think that Wake, with that riding the long mesh deal there that Wake does, they gave up 31 points last week to Virginia. But they scored 30 themselves against Virginia. I think Wake can score a little bit on Ole Miss. I think that Dave Clawson and that crew, the offensive coordinator, can do a little bit. But I like Ole Miss and Wake to go over 63 in this spot. I think there's going to be some fireworks in this game. I think Ole Miss lights it up, and I think Wake scores enough to be able to push this one over.
Dude, little nugget in that game. Both of those offenses run plays at 22 seconds per play or faster.
Interesting.
So there's going to be a lot of plays, a lot of fireworks in that game. I mean, it's, North Carolina, close to South Carolina. The rain could creep up there, might slow the offenses down a little bit. But I really like that pick. Don't be surprised if I join you on that one.
Okay.
You got anything else for us?
No, not right now, man. I'll tell you right now, I'm taking a look at possibly West Virginia. I'm calling this the Trust Myself Saturday. Going into the year, there were some teams that I liked. I said that West Virginia was going to lose to Penn State, but I still like this West Virginia team. Pitt has looked pretty solid through 2 weeks. Alabama transfer quarterback Eli Holstein, who, by the way, was the number 2 quarterback in the state of Louisiana behind Arch Manning. He went to Bama. Obviously wasn't going to work out where he was going to play at Bama. Transfers to Pitt, wins the starting job, has played pretty well through 2 weeks. But they had to have a massive comeback last week against Cincinnati. This Pitt defensive line under Pat Narduzzi is not the same defensive lines that we've seen under Narduzzi at Pitt. I think West Virginia will be able to run the rock a little bit. Jaheim White and that crew, Garrett Green will be able to run the football. So they're on my radar. Kansas State's on my radar. But as far as right now that I've got for sure as of this moment, Alabama minus 15.5, Washington minus 4, and Ole Miss Wake over 63.
Okay, some of those ones we're looking at. Hit us up on socials, mainly X. We're at Always Talk Ball. If you're still listening, let us know. What you think. What side should we go on? We're torn here, man. My man was even asking, if he should bet against Notre Dame. Before the show started tonight. So
no. I was asking if I should lay the points with Notre Dame after that debacle. After that debacle against Northern Illinois.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I forgot to mention them just now. I'm actually considering it. Call me crazy. I'm actually considering laying the points with Notre Dame on the road at Purdue because I think the Irish are just going to run the piss out of the ball against Purdue this week. And the Irish are good against the pass. And Purdue's going to sling it with Hudson Card. So I don't know yet. That could make it. I don't know. Everybody's laughing at what I just said. That's fine.
Yep. Well, we appreciate it. Again, follow us on all socials. Hit like, hit subscribe on the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And share this with your friends. Week 3 is upon us, and we will be back on Monday to recap all of Week 3. Until next time.